Good morning. So I was sitting here thinking about sin. What is sin? I often catch people quoting the scriptures, especially Americans. They quote the scriptures quite a lot, and sometimes they say Jesus was born without a sin. And I tend to agree. Yeah. Why? Well, because Jesus was born through parthenogenesis. Like all solar deities, they had this miraculous birth from a virgin mother. That's why they were born without sin. To try to explain this, we have to go to the source. The source is Vedic metaphysics. Yeah, I mean, it's the oldest story in the world, all right? And different cultures add or subtract, information depending on their inclinations, depending on their flavors. But ultimately, it's the same story. But I prefer going to the source, as all should all investigators do. Why would you focus on some guru opinion, right? That's just his opinion. So why better to go to the source, to the original texts, which is Vedic metaphysics. Original Hinduism, original Brahmanism, original Buddhism. It's all there. And they talk about sin. They do, but it's in a whole different context than the Abrahamics. All right. So for the Abrahamics, there is the soul, right? The soul is immortal. The soul is the spiritual. The soul is the deity. All right. The soul is one. All right. The soul is not yours to possess. The soul only borrows itself. The soul is the self. There's nothing wrong into seeking the self, like Buddha said. The soul is one. And eventually, because the soul dismembers itself into many, so it can inhabit every being on the world, it ends up knowing everything, right? Once that living creature meets its end, it's not the end of you. You just become something else. You, from this being, living being, you become the spirit. You transmigrate, yes, and eventually, from countless transmigrations, the soul ends up knowing everything and experiencing everything. And I suppose that's the purpose of this holographic reality, is for the one to experience the many. I mean, according to the scriptures of the Hindus, right? I'm not trying to convince you or change your mind about anything. Me, I'm just, learning this, and it helps to keep your mind busy. And it's an education, I would say. It helps you think, rationalize, critical, think critically about stuff. And so people from the Hindu traditions, they say the soul is dismembered every time you have sex and impregnate someone. All right, the soul is dismembered. Yeah, and you could say it's a sacrifice that the soul is doing, right? It's a sacrifice. The soul then becomes prisoner of the next body. So they say it could be a sacrifice, a willing sacrifice. And others say this sacrifice happens because of ignorance. Ignorance because the soul has forgotten who it is. and has become completely in love with the physical world, in love with the senses, the tastes, the excesses, the pleasures. So out of ignorance, the soul just keeps dismembering itself and going through body to body to experience everything. And others say it's like a crime, like a sin. Yeah, like a sin, because we, out of our own will, we have sex and reproduce, and every time we reproduce, you are dismembering the soul into it occupying another body. That's their concept of sin, right? So the man shoots up, this liquid into the female, right? It's almost like this liquid contains a password. The password is passed to the female, to the egg, and then life manifests, in which the password will give access, to the soul, to the signal. The signal will inhabit the next body, you know through the sperm, right? That's when the soul is again divided into the many. And in the ancient scriptures they call this a sacrifice, and everything was made possibly from ignorance, etc. You know, that's their concept of sin. The reason why Jesus is born without sin is because he was born out of parthenogenesis. Jesus and any other solar deity, Buddha, Plato, etc. There's so many. They were all born through parthenogenesis from a virgin mother. So there was no sin. There was no sacrifice. There was no ignorance involved. Yeah. Of course, the Abrahamics then distorted the meaning of sin, right? When they say, uh, I think it's in that part when Jesus is talking to a prostitute or something, and people want to stone her to death. It's a prostitute or someone who committed adultery. I don't know. And he said, "Let those who are out of sin throw the first stone." Of course, nobody threw any stone because everybody was born through the natural way, which is from sex, and so that's sin. That is sin. Not committing bad things, behaving like an idiot and committing crimes, doing bad things. That's they distorted the meaning of the whole concept of sin. So anyway, I was thinking about something else about. Oh yes, it's excess. If you want to end the cycle of reincarnation, you have to return to the source. You have to stop this cycle of ignorance. And how do you stop it? By educating yourself, of course. The Platonists call this theurgy, and the Buddhists call it Brahmayana, the path to liberation. You have to let go of the excess, of the pleasures. You have to live the most simple life possible and meditate on the soul, meditate on the one, and meditate how to cherish and get closer to the one sitting in your heart, and identify what is not the self, which is feelings, thoughts, perceptions, mental machinations, and consciousness. Those are considered the five aggregates that are not the self. So everything, I think it was Descartes when he said, "I think, therefore I am." He was identifying with his thoughts. He was identifying with the material world. Everything, actually, Buddhists and Platonists say it's not the self. So anyway, I think I'm going to shut up now. I hope this was helpful. If you want to know, more about this, you got to read original, Brahmanism, original Hinduism, original Buddhism, and you will find much, much more um, information, and how curious the Abrahamics, way of thinking is so different. And to me, it's almost like they weaponized weaponized the scriptures. It seems to me that there was this psychopath, this warlord. I mean, there were many, in the Middle East, and he came up with the first um, commandments or something. It's like a tablet with rules, and he was one of these first psychopaths, and he pretty much write down the narcissist guidebook. He wanted to be worshipped. Everybody, had to be on their knees as he was passing, and everybody would have respected him and worshipped him. Otherwise, off with their heads. And you know, he was a warlord. He could afford to impose this over the population. If you didn't accept, he would, get rid of you. And this was the basis of many constitutions of the world, and and religious texts like the what's it called, the Torah or the Talmud. The Talmud. It's the origin. It's this guidebook, how you should live your life, and this guidebook, of course, is dictated by a warlord. This is how you have to do things. The thing, the thing, and if you don't do, there will be consequences. This is probably the origin of democracy. Yes, democracy is, give them enough rope for them to hang themselves. That's what it is. Anyway, people sometimes say, "Oh, but democracy started in ancient Greece." Really? In ancient Greece, there was like 75% slaves. How the hell was that a democracy? Anyway, have a nice day.